Each workout is like a little brick that gradually builds a house throughout your training plan. And today I'm going to go through how I'm writing my training plan for my next 100k mountain ultra. Although I'll be talking about how this plan is devised for me, I'm going to talk about the philosophies behind my decisions in how I'm building the plan, and hopefully that's what helps you too. Let's get into it. I think of plans like recipes, and when you're a beginner cook, you follow the recipe to the letter because you don't know what else to do. But gradually, as you become more proficient, you try new ingredients, and gradually you build a style that's your own. I've followed 2 plans in the past, written by experts. I've followed a plan written by the authors of 80/20 Running and by the authors of The Uphill Athlete, both great books. But the plans didn't quite fit my life, and in both plans, although they were great and they taught me a lot, I've reached a bit of burnout in both of them, and I think that's because I was trying to wedge things into the wrong place in my life. This plan I've written is built very specifically around my life. I'm hoping that that really brings out the best in me. Although I'm expecting to be tired along the way, I hopefully won't reach burnout like I did last time. Before we delve into the plan, first of all, we have to be very clear about our goals. My next race is a 100k mountain ultra, but there are a few more details that are relevant. I'm a mid-pack runner. I don't care how fast I do this race. I just want to get to the finish line without breaking. Those goals and having clarity around that will change how much emphasis I put on various elements of the plan. You also have to remember when going through my plan, even though I'm training for a mountain ultra, I live somewhere very flat. And again, that's going to change how much emphasis I put on, for example, things like strength training compared to if I lived with mountains on my doorstep. If I had mountains next door, I'd be running up and down them all day, but I don't. So I'm going to have to change that, and you'll see what I mean when we get into the strength. Before we delve into the details of the plan, it's really important to understand the principles behind how these things work. The first principle that we'll be following is the SAID principle, S-A-I-D. This is that your body will make a specific adaptation to an imposed demand. This actually happens for everything in life. So if the imposed demand you put on your body is that you drive to work, you sit at a desk, you drive home, and then you sit on the sofa watching Netflix, the specific adaptation your body will make is that you'll become an expert sitter. What we're hoping to do is impose the demand of lots of running, base running, intensity running, hill running, strength training, and the specific adaptation our body will make over time is that we become an ultra runner. During the plan, we'll be following the principle of progressive overload, which means we'll be adding volume and intensity gradually as we go, not too much, but also not too little. Throughout the plan, we'll be having mini periods within it, periodization this is known as, where we'll be trying to push certain levels of function with more focus. And lastly, there's the concept of specificity. We'll start with maybe less specificity aimed at the race, and then we'll have more specificity, meaning we'll be trying to mimic many more of the elements of the race that we'll be doing closer to the race. The ingredients of the recipe can also be thought of puzzle pieces, and the puzzle pieces all need to be in the right place for it to work. The puzzle pieces we're going to be using are zone 2 running, long zone 2 running, interval work, VO2 max work, hill training, heavy strength training, plyometric strength training, and what I'm calling prehab strength training. This sounds like a lot, but you'll find that sometimes we'll be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or we'll be focusing on some of those things more in certain periods of the overall block. Previous plans I've done have been 20 weeks and 22 weeks, but I'm actually going with a 16-week plan this time. Probably going to be 17 weeks because I've kind of had a bit of a run-up this week. The reason for that is I think I peaked a bit too early in the previous plans. I did hit burnout. And I'm going to do a bit of an experiment this time. I'm coming into this plan with more fitness than I have in the past, and maybe shortening the plan will make me feel primed and ready, bang on the race, as opposed to feeling pretty knackered by the time the race comes by. Getting into the plan and focusing on running to begin with, for the first period, my runs are just going to be zone 2. All of them will be zone 2. The reason for this is actually I got sick in December, so I didn't do much running. So what I want to do quickly is get back to higher volume work. And that's going to be quite easy to do because I've had this fitness recently, so my connective tissue resilience is there, and I'll be able to ramp up to 3-hour runs probably within that first month without overloading the system. If this is your first time getting into ultra running, that would probably be a bit too quick, but because I've had this fitness recently, I'll bounce back quickly with focusing just on the aerobic system. After 3 weeks, we're going to bring in some intensity. There are so many ways you can do this, but I'm just going to keep it simple with 2 minutes hard, 90 seconds easy after a 15-minute zone 2 warm-up and a 10-minute zone 2 cool down. I'll be building up to 10 repeats of those 2-minute hard sessions. The next mini block, while maintaining the zone 2 and the long zone 2 and all that stuff, the intensity is going to switch to what we call VO2 max training. This is basically just bigger intervals. I've got a whole video on how I do my VO2 max training, which I'll link below, but I'll be following the model of 4 minutes hard, 4 minutes walk, 4 times up to 6 times during those few weeks. And this will help my VO2 max, which is your body's ability to deal with oxygen in your blood. The final period is going to be where I do the most disgusting interval speed work, and I'll be using pyramids for that. And I'm going to change my long run to do double days. So I'll have 2 fairly hefty days back to back, which is a great way to build tissue resilience and your aerobic base. Because of my life with kids and business and everything, it's really hard for me to go out for 5 or 6 or 7 hour runs, but going out for 2 back-to-back, say 4 hours and 2 hours, that'll be possible. So that's a great way to build up the aerobic base and the tissue resilience needed for a long distance ultra. As we get closer to the end of the plan, I'm going to be doing more hill work. We don't have big hills near where I live, but there is a nature reserve with lots of little steep hills, so I can actually accumulate some fairly hefty elevation during my runs. Throughout the plan, I'm just going to be doing 2 strength sessions a week. I've been doing more strength recently, and hopefully that's built up a bit of a reserve and a buffer that I'll try and maintain with those 2 sessions. You may remember earlier that there were 3 types of strength sessions that I was talking about: heavy strength, plyometric strength, and prehab strength. The prehab strength, I'm actually just going to do as my warm-ups. What I mean by this is I will be taking my joints to end range through lots of weird ranges of motion, and that'll be building resilience in my ankles, my knees, my hips, my spine, my shoulders, and this should really help prevent injury. The heavy strength work is where we'll be focusing around the 8 to 15 rep range, classic 3 sets type thing with 90 seconds rest in between. And I'm just going to be focusing on classic movements like squatting and lunging, and I want to keep some upper body strength with pressing and pulling. This is the stuff where you really push to maximum effort. Plyometric strength is going to be great for my tissue resilience, particularly on helping me cope with the downhills. If you remember back to my goals earlier, I don't care how fast I do this race, I just want to get to the finish line without braking. Number 1 rule in the mountains, don't brake, and plyometric strength I think will really help me. So logistically, I've got 4 runs a week and 2 strength sessions a week. Previously I've aimed at 6 runs a week, and again, that does 2 things. It's quite hard to fit in the 6, and sometimes I don't, and then I beat myself up about it, but also it does make me neglect strength training. As much as I say I'd love to do strength training while I'm running 6 days a week and do double days maybe, it just doesn't happen in my life. So I'm going to take the pressure off myself and do 4 runs a week with the 2 strength. We'll see if that ends up backfiring on me, but I think it's going to work. I'm doing the heavy strength stuff on the Wednesday, and the Thursday is actually going to be my rest day because that's my busiest day at work. So when I'm feeling really domsy and can't walk because of all the squats the day before, I'll have a bit of a recovery on that day and I'll just focus on some mobility. The plyo I'll be doing on a Sunday, and I've chosen that because I'm normally out with the kids on a Sunday, so I can do plyo at home with no equipment, and that will be quite quick a workout as well. Now, if you're interested in checking out my plan, I'll leave a link in the description below for it. I'll also link some of those previous videos that I've mentioned, and I need to say a huge thank you to Scott Martin, who left me just the most wonderful comment that really made my day last time. The other thing that's starting to happen, which I'm super grateful for, is people are asking me questions. This video is based on a question from a few videos ago, and Scott asked a question last time that I'll be making a video about now. So if you have any questions about training and how to prepare your body for epic adventures, drop me a comment below because it really helps give me ideas for this. And until next time, happy training.